Welcome guys. The God of War series has always been known as epic boss fight. We saw fewer bases in the 2018 version, but Ragnarok will definitely compensate for the low base of the previous version. In the previous episode, God of War 2018, for reasons such as the development of a new graphics engine or the construction of new elements for a title that had a different style than the previous trilogy, Santa Monica Studios failed to create and design various bases, but this time due to different conditions of God of War, Ragnarok, expect to see more diverse and challenging base. In this video, we are going to examine the base that we may see in God of War, Ragnarok. The video you'll see below includes fictional spoilers from God of War 2018 game. Freya. At the end of God of War 2018, Kratos inevitably murdered Baldur to save Freya's life, but it seems that this was not a good justification for Freya and that she still holds a grudge against Kratos and Atreus. Given the events of the previous game, in Ragnarok's title we will not see a pacifist and kind Freya, as Queen of the Valkyries, managed to break her spell and recover the spirit of warfare. Freya's presence as a fate base seems certain, but it's unlikely that the style of her struggles will resemble other God of War 2018 Valkyries, as she is the Queen of Valkyries and we expect her base to be more challenging than the Valkyries in God of War 2018. Heimdall. If Kratos intends to fight the gods of war, Ragnarok in Asgard, the first person to face him will be the guardian of the Asgard Gate, Heimdall. According to the legends of Norse Heimdall and Loki, they are killed fighting each other, but since the God of War series has always been a free adaptation of mythology, it is unlikely that Atreus will be killed by Heimdall, but his fight against Atreus and Kratos is very likely. Thor. Due to the secret end of God of War title 2018, before Gimli and the characters in this work were unveiled, the audience of this title was confident of Thor's presence as one of the main bases in the game God of War, Ragnarok. Kratos' fight with Thor seems to be very exciting, and we expect Thor to be in most parts of God of War, Ragnarok. Ragnar Lothbrok. Kratos has many and varied enemies, but not all of them are mythical gods and beings. Some of Kratos' enemies have less power than mythical gods and creatures, and they appear more normal, but they are challenging. Barbarian King and Perseus in God of War 2 are good examples of ordinary human enemies of Kratos. So with that in mind, why shouldn't Kratos face such animosity in God of War, Ragnarok? Ragnar Lothbrok is the name Vikingi, who has a reputation in Norse mythology, since Kratos will be a threat to Asgard, and Odin may use this warrior as a way to defeat Kratos. Freyr. Remember the dark and bright elves in the God of War 2018 game. Kratos and Atreus were not interested in intervening in the battle of the two, but inevitably clashed with the Dark Elves, and when one of their commanders defeated them, they realized that there had been a big mistake by them. According to Norse myths, Freya's brother, Freyr, has a direct connection to the Bright Elves, and since the battle of the Bright and Dark Elves has not ended and Kratos has intervened in the wars, the confrontation between Kratos and Freyr does not seem far-fetched. Surtur. Based on the Norse myths of Ragnarok and the information we witnessed in God of War 2018, Surtur will play a key role in the story of God of War, Ragnarok. Surtur is the name of a giant who raised Asgard in the Battle of Ragnarok. Kratos' main goal will be to fight the Aesairs and has had a good relationship with the Jotun's giant, until now. However, it is unlikely that these relationships will break up and the two will fight each other. Remember the Titan's betrayal of Kratos in the third episode of God of War. Fafnir. If you have completed the sub-missions of God of War 2018, you will meet dwarves in one of these missions, which has become a dragon and is trapped in a place. At the end of that mission you manage to free Fafnir and now it seems that this dragon is wandering the world of the game. It is likely that in the title God of War, Ragnarok, as in the previous game we fought a dragon, we will also face Fafnir. Odin. Odin in God of War 2018, and God of War, Ragnarok warrant Zeus in the old trilogy of the series. Kratos and Atreus' fight with Odin in this episode is certain as the final boss, and the design of this base may be similar to Zeus in the second and third episodes. Hreysvelgr. Hreysvelgr, the same massive bird in Hell, was supposed to be in the God of War game 2018 as a fight boss, but due to a lack of time, the fight against this giant bird was eliminated from the God of War 2018 game. Now that God of War, Ragnarok's developer team isn't busy building the developer engine and designing completely new elements, it's a good opportunity for the bird to appear in God of War, Ragnarok as a boss fight. Atreus. Atreus' presence on this list may seem a little unreasonable, but the payment of his character is in a way that goes in the exact opposite direction of Kratos, and his morality resembles that of Kratos' youth. Strauss expects Kratos to behave aggressively and interfere in any battle that passes by, a request that is quickly rejected by Kratos. Atreus and Kratos have many differences, and since Atreus is no longer a boy, unlike the previous episode, these differences may be a little more serious than the verbal fights in the previous version. God of War. Ragnarok game developers have announced a surprise yet inevitable ending. Might the killing of Atreus at the hands of Kratos be the same end? Final word: all the names you saw in the video were based on the guesses and content we've seen in previous games. Maybe Santa Monica Studios has a completely different perspective and surprises us all. To reach a definitive answer, you have to wait until the game is released.